This new dog illness that is being cried about is schistosomiasis, and it doesn't just affect dogs. All of these recent news stories say to worry about your dogs, but this is a human disease too. When they present this disease, they try to act like it's only in poor countries. Notice the skin color. They try to act like this is India and Africa. But this is a disease that affects humans. These little parasites can get into the human body. I did notice that this website says that these are not found in the United States, but they have found them as far as it affects dogs, and they've put a bunch of news stories out there. So these are in the United States. So one of the things that they have to do is eliminate the snails, they say. But if these snails eat decaying organic matter, and they're in waters where people are allowing their dogs to defecate, and the rainwater is putting all of that decaying organic matter, aka dog feces, dogs are providing additional food for those snails, and dogs are becoming a part of the life cycle of that parasitic worm. The dog gets it, the dog puts feces on the ground, the feces gets into the water, the snail re-eats it, and that would explain why these snails are so covered with these parasites, because they have another vector, the dog, that is making these parasites have more food to eat. So they say that these parasites that are on snails are only in these other countries. So in Africa, they have a lot of stray dogs that American people rescue and bring into our country. So we're on the Street Tales website, and it says right here, public health risk. Animals are not the only ones suffering. The issue of street dogs poses a serious health risk for people, especially those living in impoverished communities. Zoonosis, infectious diseases which are transmitted between animals and humans, negatively affect community health as entire areas can become infected with parasites, diseases, and infections introduced by dogs. Rabies. So, this website is trying to pull your heartstrings for dogs. That's why they're speaking the truth here. But they're speaking the truth. These communities in Africa that have more dogs are part of the problem. So they're going to say that this parasite is only in places like Africa or other places with poor sanitation. Well, these places are overrun with dogs. So that should be a lesson for us. We should not overrun our country with dogs. And when they say poor sanitation, that's dogs. Dogs filling the streets, filling the waters with parasite infected feces particles. This article about the dogs in Africa surprisingly has some truth in it that you don't see in much of the mainstream media. Canine aggression towards humans is another major public health risk in Africa, as dogs have experienced abuse and that were raised to be aggressive can sadly end up turning against humans, especially unintentionally provoked. So they're using a little bit of that ambiguous language, but they're admitting that the dogs are unintentionally provoked. I mean, anything can provoke a dog, a little noise in the background, and then the dog kills somebody. But the takeaway is that the dog itself is a major public health risk. So they admit it in this article because they're trying to get you to donate to help the dogs. So just to show you what I'm talking about, get involved and start creating a happier and healthy life for African dogs. So they're asking for money so that Africa can have more dogs. And that's just going to mean poorer health for these people that live in Africa. So this dog propaganda, this dumping our money and time into dogs, in the long run, is making people all over the world unhealthy. And where are the politicians and all the celebrities that speak out against impoverished communities and we need to do stuff for them? Maybe if you start getting rid of some of these dogs in their communities, they wouldn't be attacked and full of so many parasites, as this article admits. And dogs being carriers of this disease, they're being brought across state borders. They say that this parasite is in Texas or other states like eastern United States only. But then they fail to mention that we have hundreds and hundreds of people in different nonprofit organizations that collect stray dogs from other states and bring them into other communities. And so, do you know that these dogs didn't just chomp down on a snail? No, you don't. Do you know if these dogs were swimming in parasite infested waters? No, you don't. But you're happily bring them across lines to another state. So, with all this crazy outrage and all these stories, where's the concern for humans? Because this affects humans too. And all of these news stories are constantly showing pictures of dogs out in the water. It's like they have to use a terrible story to push propaganda. They're normalizing putting your dog in lakes and rivers in all of these stories. Like, no, keep your nasty feces machine out of those waters because you're putting humans at risk. You're out there collecting parasites, bringing them back into your home. So there it is, schistosomiasis, also called fluke worm, liverworm, bloodworm, and there's plenty of information out there about it already. I think what they say right here is correct. A neglected tropical disease. Most of these diseases that end up being associated with dogs are very neglected. Most dog owners, most people don't know about them. And we don't know about them until we start dying or dogs start dying. And that again is the reactiveness of dog culture that puts us in these situations. How about we be proactive and start studying up on some of these diseases and stop propagating them with our dogs?